The first meeting for the convention was held on May 25th of 1787. It was held in what is now called Independence Hall but was then called the Pennsylvania State House. There was multiple meetings in the span of around 4 months, May 25th through September 7th, 1787. The day of that first meeting had been planned for a while, but still ended up a week later than planned. As there were 13 states at the time, all 13 states were invited to send delegates. There were 70 delegates invited, but only 12 states sent delegates, and 55 delegates attended. If you're wondering who didn't send delegates, it was Rhode Island, or as they called themselves, the home of the otherwise minded. They boycotted the convention. The first debate or conflict started on May 29, 1787, when a man named Edmund Randolph proposed the Virginia Plan. This plan was meant to be attractive for his state, Virginia, thus meaning it would definitely not be attractive to everyone. The larger states and states who were sympathetic towards broad federal powers liked this plan. Of course, if those were the only people who agreed with it, then there was obviously the smaller states and less sympathetic states who disagreed. On June 14, 1787, there was a plan proposed by William Patterson. This man from New Jersey made his plan, the New Jersey Plan, the complete opposite of Randolph's. The smaller states and less sentimental states liked this plan. It took months of hard work for the 55 men of the convention to settle on a compromise. Eventually, a man from Connecticut, Robert Sherman, proposed the Connecticut Compromise. There were many arguments, and here's the second one: the conflict of how the slaves would be counted. This debate caused a lot of issues between the North and the South, who disagreed greatly. The northern states said that it was unfair to count the slaves as population if they didn't have the same rights as the rest of the population. They thought that the southerners shouldn't have treated them as property if they didn't want to be taxed on them, like property. The southerners argued that the slaves were human despite what rights they had, and thus should be counted as population. They thought that if it wasn't property, and slaves were not actually property, then they shouldn't be taxed. James Wilson and Robert Sherman proposed the 3/5 compromise. Every 3 of 5 slaves were counted as population for a state. The count was important because every state wanted more power for the House of Representatives, and one of the houses gave your vote based off of population. The argument of whether or not basic rights would be included in the Constitution was another large debate. There was the group of people who argued that there was no need to add basic rights as that was a given. There was also the group that wanted to include basic rights so that their basic rights could not be stripped as they were under King George's rule. As there was for every other debate, there was a compromise for this issue. This was the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights was a legal document stating all of the rights that could not be stripped. The Constitution was not approved until it was added, and when it was approved, the 39 people who signed it was only barely enough to get it approved. To sum it up, there was 55 men joined in Independence Hall all summer in 1787. They were going to refresh the Articles of Confederation, but instead they wrote the Constitution after several debates. They did not approve even that until the Bill of Rights was added in September.